Hello, I've been itching to find a solid but as basic as possible OEM computer and to upgrade it into a decent retro gaming machine. And a couple of years ago I came across one for only 20 euros. This is Compaq DeskPro EX and it's an old business desktop computer from the turn of the 2000s. The label says EXM/P866/20C/6/128C1N FEN. I'm not entirely sure what each segment means, but at least that it has 866 MHz Intel Pentium III, 128 MB of RAM, probably used to have a 20 GB storage, and Fin, well, obviously means Finnish. The other label on the case tells me that the operating system was Windows 2000 Professional. These computers were known for their reliability and they were a popular choice for business environments. This one is missing its hard drive, but I have a spare SSD, so it doesn't matter. I'll also change the CD drive with something better, and I need to figure out what to populate this empty bay with. And I just have to do something about this mess of cables, because I can't stand this. Luckily, there seems to be some hidden empty spaces to tuck away at least some of the cabling. So let's start by taking this thing apart and do a little cleaning. Graphics, we have the original NVIDIA GeForce4 Ti M64. I'm not sure if this is the 16 or 32 MB variant. The network card is a pretty standard 100 MB per second SMC EG10100, which uses the familiar Realtek RTL8139 chip. Then the main board, which features an Intel 815E chipset offering 1 AGB and 3 PCI slots. Just like the external label indicated, it runs an 866 MHz Pentium III processor alongside 128 MB of RAM. You won't find a dedicated sound card here, as audio is handled by the integrated sound chip. As for cooling, the case has two mounts for 92mm fans. There's a plastic bracket in the front and another mount covered by a plastic shroud in the back. The CD drive is hideously yellowed, and since it's obviously not the original one from the factory, we can swap it out for a better DVD drive with a clear console. The original Compaq power supply is still fully functional. However, it's nearly 30 years old and only rated for 200 watts. So I'm going to replace it as well, just for my peace of mind. I've had this black DVD burner sitting around for a while now, so it's finally time to put it to good use. Another spare part I have on hand is this 5¼ inch to 3½ inch bay adapter. It's going to be the perfect spot to mount our new SSD. Next up is the power supply. I'm using a spare 600 watt Cooler Master from my now disassembled Windows 10 PC. I managed to tuck all the unnecessary cables into the hidden space above the PSU and folded the excess slack as neatly as possible. However, I did hit a bit of a setback with the PSU mount, but more about that in a moment. Turns out the PSU mount in this Compaq doesn't perfectly align with my Cooler Master power supply, leaving the power cord socket half covered. I tried a Corsair CX450 that I had lying around, and while it fit better, the power switch was now pressing hard against the mount. Since I really wanted to keep the Compaq case intact, I solved this by adding screw offsets to the PSU, giving the power switch just enough clearance. Additionally, I applied some sound dampening material inside the outer shell. The case vibrated like nobody's business whenever the fans or the optical drive started spinning, so this should help keep things nice and quiet. Looking closely at the motherboard, I noticed 5 capacitors that were slightly bulging. I've already ordered replacements, so I'll be swapping those at some point down the road. For storage, we are using a 120GB Kingston A400 paired with a Startech adapter. I've already partitioned and formatted it into 15GB and 85GB NTFS volumes. Before proceeding to OS installation, the BIOS was running version 1.10, so I went ahead and flashed it to 2.04, which is the latest official release. I originally wanted to do a proper OEM installation using the Compaq DeskPro Restore CD, but for some reason it just refused to cooperate. It failed to recognize my partitions and tried to force a FAT32 format on the entire SSD, even though I explicitly selected Windows 2000 as the OS. Just for fun, I tried to proceed with FAT32, but after all that setup, it wouldn't recognize the Windows 2000 installation media and strangely expected Windows 95 instead. At that point, I decided to ditch the Restore CD and just go with the standard retail Windows 2000 SP4 CD, which worked perfectly without a single hitch. For sound and networking, Windows 2000 actually includes its own certified drivers, which are known to be stable, and they picked up all the integrated components right out of the box. Before doing any further upgrades to the system, I updated the chipset drivers and installed the detonator version 6.31 drivers for the Riva TNT2. To wrap things up, I pulled down rest of the official Windows 2000 updates using Legacy Update. And I also threw on DirectX 9C since there wasn't really a solid reason to stick with an older version. I think the drivers might be a bit of a mismatch for the sound chip, because for some reason all the audio playback was running at double speed.
Y'all ready for this? Yeah, yes, Jackrabbit.
You have lost the lead. You are tied for the lead. You have taken the lead. You are tied for the lead.
Doesn't sound like you have a choice, Captain. All right, you win. We don't know what these scumbags are up to down there, but we do know their leader's name.
Saber, the plan's failed! We got it! Take hostages! Whatever it takes, I want those explosives detonated!
So, how does this DeskPro actually perform with its original graphics card and RAM? To find out, I run a few benchmarks at resolution 1024 by 768 with 32-bit color. 3D Mark 2000 gave us a score of 1430. As for the games, we got an average 19.8 FPS in Quake 3, 26.6 FPS in Expendable, and 18.3 FPS in MDK2. Of course, those numbers are quite underwhelming, but that's to be expected considering this machine was originally meant to be just a workstation. First up, we are going to quadruple the amount of memory, bumping it up from a measly 120 megabytes to a staggering 512 megabytes. Mostly because that's the absolute maximum this motherboard can handle. Also notice the fresh CPU fan. The original one was so loud that it just had to go. Next, I've had this 128 megabyte GeForce 4 Ti 4200 sitting around for a while now, so it's finally time to put it to good use. This should give the system a massive performance boost. And for audio, it's once again a Sound Blaster Live. Sorry if you're getting tired of seeing these in my videos, but I've accumulated quite a collection over the years. That said, I've been steadily clearing them out, and I'm pretty sure this is the last one I have left. And finally, I'm throwing in a USB 2.0 expansion card to make file transferring a lot faster. As for the network card, well, there's honestly just no reason to change it. So, how does the performance stack up after the upgrades using the same benchmarks and settings? Unsurprisingly, it's vastly improved. The 3D Mark 2000 score jumped to 6090 points, a massive leap from the previous 1430. Gaming performance also saw a massive boost. The average frame rate climbed to 87 FPS in Quake 3, 63.3 FPS in Expendable and 59.3 FPS in MDK2. I think it's safe to say that this Compaq has been transformed into a solid retro gaming machine. This was an incredibly exciting project, proving that old workstations are highly viable options for retro gaming rigs. After playtesting this Compaq intensively for a few months, I can confidently say it runs like a dream. And how about that Windows 2000? Is it excellent or is it excellent? I mean, this thing is rock solid. Even if the game throws a temper tantrum and crashes, it doesn't drag the operating system down with it. So, if Windows XP feels too modern and DOS isn't a strict requirement, Windows 2000 is definitely the way to go. Alright, that's all for now. But I have new videos brewing on the horizon, so I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.